Hey guys, it's Maaike. I'm back with Use Your Stash number 2. A very long title. Partial embossing anywhere on your card panel. And this is the card that I made. Now, traditionally, you can just stick your panel out from an embossing folder. But you can never have it in the middle of your card panel or card base, depending what you decide. If you have these really skinny ones, then you're lucky. But otherwise, you can see you can only choose to do an edge. And somehow it doesn't fit this. I don't have many embossing folders because I'm a clean and simple person at heart. So yeah, the one I really wanted, I couldn't find. This I can't stand that. Yeah, it's 10 by 15 centimeters, and this, you can see the packaging. And they were just completely knackered in the shop. I think they might have been old, but doesn't matter. Use your stash. Use what you have. I like this idea because you can do it anywhere. Now on Facebook, I am a member of the Clean and Simple Card Making group, and their partial embossing is very, very big in there. And it's not new because 5 years ago, some time ago, you could buy diffuser plates. I think from Tim Holtz actually, and other brands probably as well. But you have to buy them. I don't want to. If you don't have to. So I'm cutting my card panel smaller, just to make it fit. And as I say, I don't have many. But the trick is actually to mimic a portion of your cutting plate. Now I measured it. It's 1 millimeter, or that's what it says, 10 millimeter probably. I don't know. But I made sure that my cardboard shim is the same, and you can feel it as well if you just put it next to it, of course, unless it's very bent, your plate. Now this is some packaging. I needed 6. Thank you, tiered. But depending on how thick it is, and this was an envelope from Amazon. Actually, my transfer type paper came in. But I could still die cut this with my thin dies. So I was lucky there. Otherwise, maybe you have big dies from Tim Holtz. And sometimes I also cut windows from card bases, and I was looking for it. And you could keep those and then stack them instead of making them scraps. See, that's the embossing folder I was looking for, and I inked it and I made it all pretty for something else that I don't remember. But yeah. Sorry, he needs cuddles. But yeah, I cut it 6 times. I didn't have enough packaging to do it from the same, so that's my embossing folder packaging. I just took it. It doesn't matter as long as you have enough. Now I want to say, you can buy those small cutting plates from the mini embossing machines, and I use those for partial die cutting a lot. But sometimes you get an impression, and that's because the edges are too hard, I think. If you do it with cardboard, it's more forgiving. And of course you can make it in any shape. You can even, do it zigzaggedy. Or I looked at my diamond dice. I thought, oh, that's nice. And I looked at my KV likes, and you can go anyway. You can even do it underneath. There, Chris Stokes is a moderator on that group, has a YouTube channel as well, and I linked her down below. And she actually embosses the area below a snowflake flurry. I think I'm not sure what it was. I think it was snowflakes. I have that, something like that, from Simon System with hearts, I believe. But it doesn't matter because it's the idea. And yeah, as I say, just keep your scraps, keep your packaging, your cereal boxes, whatever you have. Now, as I say, I don't have many embossing folders. These actually were gifted to me last week. And words is quite big. Yeah, this is still drying. I wanted to use this, but I'll use something else. Doesn't matter. And also because I cut the panel smaller, and that's a bit too big. But yeah, you can make many shims, of course. So I decided to use the square that I have, and that's also kind of left over from that long one that I made. And it all depends on your packaging. Of course, you don't want to measure it. Yeah, one is a bit too short for some of those square embossing folders, but big enough for my card base, so that's more important. I'll try to stick it down with my purple tape. It's not very sticky, and it seems to stick. Now when it goes through the machine, it comes off because it gets bent a little bit, I guess, from the pressure. And then I went to go look for my scotch tape, which doesn't stick either. Thank you, Action. I love you, but yeah, not the best sometimes. See, yeah, too much pressure in the machine. But with the Big Shot, you have shims you can take away. I didn't take away the last shim, and I think that's what gave it a little bit of an impression. So I'll do that later. Now there's two sides, of course, to any embossing folder, and deciding which you want to have on your panel is maybe even the more difficult things. Do you want the raised or the indented? And of course you can turn your panel, that doesn't really matter, except later I'm inking it as well, and then it does make a difference. And I do stick it down because I want it straight. And then, you know, that doesn't really interfere because there's no pressure. And that's what the cardboard shims do. They mimic the plate, but with softer edges. And so you don't need a second cutting plate. In case I forget to say that later, this is your cutting plate, but it's shaped. And because it's the same thickness as your cutting plate, it goes through your machine as if it was a cutting plate, because it's the same sandwich basically. But it's a shape. I like that. See, this is yeah, something floral, very nice. With 3D embossing folders, I don't have those. You might have to experiment even with different machines. Basically, you have to make sure it's the same thickness as your plate. And you know, if it's a little bit off, like a little bit skinnier because your paper wasn't this thickness, I think it's fine because your Big Shot puts lots of pressure. And I like to use my grid, as you can see, to make it straight. But then it, you know, when it comes off for the machine, what I did here is put it on top of the plate. When you only use one plate, it's best to put it below. And you can see that I first used the tab 1 because it says on the machine, but I think that gives too much pressure. So then I put it without any shims, and I put it underneath the plate. So I think that helps the cardboard shim not to bend too much, and you know, even if it gets broken or you know, horrible, you can make new ones. It's just a bit of glue and cereal boxes you probably have, or pizza boxes, or Amazon envelope that I used. So to make it even prettier, I am putting some Mermaid Lagoon on my embossing folder with a blending tool. I was looking at that one. I inked with the ink pen, and that wasn't very nice, to be honest, because you get ink everywhere. And with this I don't mind actually too much, because it gives a bubble, and it looks like sea, foamy sea. See, I put it underneath the cutting plate, and yeah, that's the only downside. Everything sticks because of the tape, so I was getting a bit but because of the ink blending also gives it a little of a shape, but it went off the shim. So it actually left some bubbles that you can't see because I'm out of screen.